There we go. So, everybody, this is Sallyanne Hartnell. She is a relationship coach, which when I got put in touch with Sallyanne, I didn't actually know there was such a thing. And I thought, oh my God, that's amazing. And now the more I've been following Sallyanne, I'm like, oh my God, it's like your brain is my brain. The things you post on social media, I'm like, yes, yes. So if you're not following Sallyanne, make sure you follow her. I will send all her links and everything. She works with separation and divorce strategies for women at crossroads in their relationship. So whether you're in a relationship craving deeper connection or asking, is it, wondering whether to stay or go, and I know at this time of life there is a lot of that going on, navigating messy divorces or flying solo, Sallyanne is going to support you to get you back on track. And I love, love, love that this has been quite a theme that's gone through today, and that you were saying yay to the power of the women. So I'll hand it over to you, Sallyanne. Tell us more.
Well, it's great to be here. And yes, I am a relationship and separation/divorce coach. My business is Reflect Coaching, and it was really born of, I guess, a lack that I felt when I navigated my own separation. My kids are now 19 and 17, and I separated from their dad when they were still primary/preschool age. And I was really looking for that kind of holistic support. And I know lots of people have spoken about that, and the community. So some kind of support that wasn't a psychologist, it wasn't a lawyer, just a little bit of a bit more hand-holding and a mentor, somebody who had been there ahead of me, who kind of knew what was coming and could see some of the, you don't know what you don't know, and you can't see your own blind spots. So I was really searching for that. And, I was searching for a coach, but that didn't exist. And then we navigated our separation quite amicably. We're still relatively friendly, to the point where, new families that we would meet at sporting events or school events didn't realize for some time that we were actually separated and then eventually divorced. And so when they discovered that, they're sort of like, well, we're separating and we want one like you guys have. How did you do it? And so, those kinds of things, combined with a need to, if I'm really transparent, combined with a need to re-enter the workforce in a way that I could manage as a single mum around my kids, that I could pretty much dictate my terms, and in a way that really lit me up. I birthed my baby, which is my business. Super passionate about it, really passionate about women having access to the support that they most need at a really shitty environment, you're allowed to swear, sorry, a really rubbish and challenging life moment that is a separation, or even just a relationship that feels a bit tricky and challenging. Is this all there is? So yeah, that's the story of, I guess, me and Reflect.
And what did you do before Reflect?
I was a physio once upon a time.
Yes.
So a lot of those skills are really transferable, but I'd got to a point before I had babies where my body was really not coping with the physicality of physio, and then stepped out of it and made a decision pre-separation that I wasn't going to go back to physio. And yeah, explored a few different things, did a few different, took a few different paths, and finally landed on life coaching, but specializing with women navigating relationship challenges.
And do you work with women of all ages going through relationship challenges, or do you find more of this age range of perimenopause or menopause just are almost naturally going through it because they've been in their relationships maybe for longer?
I work across the board. Mostly, I would say my youngest clients are probably in their 30s, and my oldest client is in her 70s.
Oh, wow. Fabulous.
Yeah. Unusual, not common, but happens. I think come menopause, perimenopause, there are a lot of reasons why women look at and question a whole lot of things in their lives, and their relationship, their primary intimate relationship, is just one of those. So does that answer your question? I work across the board, but I do find that there are particular reasons why women who are navigating, who are experiencing perimenopause or going through perimenopause, will access this sort of support.
And so do you find, say for instance, if you are working with someone in that perimenopause, menopausal age, do you ask them questions that would be, okay, are these, is this unhappiness in the relationship actually coming from your hormonal shifts and symptoms, or is it truly that you're ready to split? Do you ask questions like that, or does it not work like that?
The way I work, I probably wouldn't ask that question directly, but we would uncover things. It's almost like peeling an onion. You know, you peel back the layers, and I talk a lot with my clients about the factors that are impacting. And that's where I would open up a conversation and ask particular questions that would lead us down an exploration of, okay, well, perhaps this is related more to your perimenopausal hormonal symptoms or your emotional changes around your perimenopause, and that is a contributing factor. So how about we look at, and I know Sharon just spoke about accessing other services, other professionals. So, you know, how about we look at getting you some support that can, you know, even out your hormonal changes, that can help you, you know, navigate some of those more physical symptoms that as a coach I can't really help you with. I can help you with the emotional lability or the volatility, or I can help you with low mood. I can help you with anxiety, frustration, you know, that often I find my perimenopausal clients are just like, they're at a point where they just don't give up anymore. Like they're done. So I can help them navigate that in a way that supports their relationship, even as they're transitioning out, if that's what they choose.
Amazing. I find it so fascinating. Do you think, or let's change the question, how do you get women to reclaim you after their separation or divorce?
We start at the end, which sounds a little bit counterintuitive. So I work with my clients whatever age they are, we start at the end. Like, okay, 5, 10, 20 years time, how do you want your life to look and feel? And we really work hard on defining what that is so that a woman knows where she's headed. My clients really get clear on that and they know where they're going. That's the first step. Reclaiming you is also about really reconnecting to what your values are, what your hopes are, what your dreams are. Hence why we go the future trip. How do you want your life to look and feel in 20 years' time? What are your life values? What are your hopes and dreams and goals? So really connect back into those deeply. Get rid of all the shoulds. Get rid of all the expectation. And perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause is a damn fine time to do that. You know, we've spent a whole lot of our lives as women caring for others, caring about what other people think, juggling all the things, how many hats are you wearing, who am I today, peel back all those layers of expectation, responsibility, and really get connected to who you are at your core. What really matters to you? What really lights you up? And for women post-divorce or post-separation, for women who are stepping out of a long-term relationship, I get them to work on what are the things that really bring you joy? What are the things that you've forgotten that you like to do? What are the things that you used to do? How did you used to spend your time before this relationship? And even if you don't want to go back and access those, you know, you might not want to go back and reignite your pole dancing career, but what was it about pole dancing that really lit you up? Let's find those things. let's reclaim the things that bring you joy, even if it's simple joys, meditation. It doesn't have to be pole dancing or ocean swimming, or, it doesn't have to be big and crazy. What are the things that really bring you back to yourself? Get out there, start doing those, start bringing those into your every single day in small, simple ways. And if it's not pole dancing, as I said, what is it about that? What was it about that activity that you loved? What did it bring you? And how can you bring that into your everyday? So maybe it is dancing around the kitchen in your undies. Maybe it, just to bring that feeling back into your life. Maybe it's sitting really quietly, as Sharon said, lying quietly on the grass, dancing in the rain, whatever it is. Reconnect to the things that brought you joy, that still bring you joy, and start to build them into your life in really small ways every single day.
Now, I work very similarly with my clients in finding something that brings them joy. And what I find is people haven't thought about what brings them joy, and often have a very hard time thinking, oh, well, what is going to make me happy? What do I love? What do I actually want in my life? So do you find the same thing?
Absolutely. And particularly for women in their, that's not quite true. I was going to say particularly in women in their 40s, 50s. I think it's all women. And I think that we're taught, we're trained to put ourselves last. There's this thing that I talk about called the burnt chop syndrome. I don't know if anybody else, give me if you've heard about it, say yes in the chat box, where women, particularly mothers, will give the best parts of a meal to everybody else, and they'll keep that horrible burnt chop for themselves. And I think we do that metaphorically, is that the right word? Yeah, we do that in all sorts of ways as women in our lives. We give everybody else the best of the best, and we keep just the burnt bits for ourselves. And we forget, I think we just forget in day-to-day life, as I said before, all the expectations, all the responsibilities, all the juggle. And single mums, it's a great one. There just seems to be no time for joy, no time to access that. And perimenopause is a really great time to reclaim that, reclaim your joy.
When I was pregnant, I got pregnant fairly late. I can't even remember how old I was, but anyway, I always said, I am never going to give my child the food off my plate. I'm never going to do this. And I was all about, I am me, blah, blah, blah. And she's so cute that I give her everything. It is that burnt chop thing. It's so easy to fall into, even if you were so, oh yes, I am a strong woman, blah, blah, blah. It's so easy to fall in that, whether it be, a child that has that effect on you, or a partner, or even a work situation. Some people are so in love with their work that they give everything to their work or business, and they leave very little for themselves afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's an energetic exchange as much as it is a physical thing. And Narissa said, spend money on the kids and everyone else on their birthdays, never celebrate my own birthday. When's your birthday, Narissa? Make sure, even if it's $5, make sure you buy yourself something. I've always, since separating from my kids' dad, I've always bought myself a birthday present, and I always buy myself a Christmas present, always. And that is on top of him organising for the kids to buy me something.
Perfect.
I just think there is just power in reclaiming that we are worthy of. Yes. We're worthy of our own time, energy, resources, money if we can spend it. Just give to yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Narissa, put down your birth date in the chat.
And we're going to call you out.
Hold you to this. In fact, every single parent, put your birthday down and we'll hold you to it. What symptoms have you had personally, Sallyanne, that you have dealt with and, come out the other side?
Yeah, look, I'm right in the middle of my perimenopausal journey. I can't tell you whether I'm totally through. I still have a Mirena IUD in place. Happy to share that. So we're not quite sure. It's coming out, it'll come out soon, so we'll work it all out. But that's kind of masked some of my symptoms. I think the biggest one, a couple, night sweats, definitely not debilitating, but enough to be throwing bed clothes off, and as Sharon said, making sure I sleep in layers and all that. So night sweats, definitely. Just running hot like I am now, lights on, windows closed for the noise, running hot and having arguments with everybody else who lives in the house that they'll turn the heater up and I'll turn it down, and they'll turn it up and I'll turn it down. So that I've also found, historically I was a really flexible person, like uber flexible. And, having had a past life as a physio, I really understand that flexibility, and mine was kind of off the charts, and I knew that. But I found that over the last probably 2 years, that's really, really dropped. And through a bit of research, I'm coming to understand that is a symptom, that lower estrogen levels affect flexibility. And I'm just like, I am not down for this. I am not happy about that. But, it's about accepting it, that this is the way my body is moving through this phase of my life.
And that's interesting you say that, because flexibility, again, is one of those things that we don't work on enough. And if you don't work on it, and then the estrogen levels change and your body just naturally kind of stiffens up, you're going to find yourself, that person at Pilates or the gym, like, oh, but if you keep working on it, you can maintain it. So if you don't stretch at home, please do some stretches. It will make a world of difference, because how you feel in your body does affect how you feel in your mind, doesn't it?
100%. And I'm going to take what you've just said there, Vanessa, and run with it, because how you feel in your body also affects how you feel in your mind. Yes, it also affects how you show up in your relationship.
Yes.
So that's a nice little segue. Did you like how I did that? It really affects how you can show up, how you do show up in your relationship. And I know other speakers have touched on, the physical changes, insulin changes, therefore, you're loading up and you're not able to shed weight as easily. For me, it showed up in my relationship as we used to run together. And at the moment I can't run, and there are a lot of reasons why, but that's like, oh, so I can't run. How are we going to navigate this? Because that was one of our things. How are we going to navigate this? So Adam, my partner, still runs twice a week, and then we walk. So it's about, reorganizing what you do, how you show up. But yeah, and I guess too, the physical stuff plays out in terms of intimacy and sex. If you're not comfortable in your body and you're telling yourself all the BS stories in your head about what that means, then showing up in an intimate way, let's not think about all the changes to your libido and vaginal dryness and all of those impacts, but just the sheer physical change. And then the stories that you tell yourself in your mind about what that means in terms of your attractiveness, that really impacts on your intimate partnership and your relationship.
Which often then turns into, you're not being so intimate. And then because of that, you start thinking, oh, there's a bit of distance in between you, and you start thinking, oh, he's hanging out or she's hanging out somewhere a little bit longer than usual. Who are they hanging out with? Or seeing, that someone's really chatty with them while you're out, and you start getting a little bit of jealousy going on. And it's not that, or maybe sometimes they're doing something wrong, but more often than not, they might not be. It's how you're feeling in yourself that is causing you to then, reflect to them what's going on inside.
Yeah, definitely. Storytelling, telling the stories in your head and making them into a reality, rather than opening our mouths and having conversations and communicating about what we're feeling, what we're experiencing, you know, and what we're experiencing in terms of our perimenopausal symptoms, how that is making us feel and how that is impacting our capacity to show up for our relationship.
And do you find, you know, with the relationships that you help, whether you help to stay together or to split up, do you find a lot of the time it's the communication that has deteriorated that is becoming the massive problem?
100%, all the time. It's also about the baggage that we bring into relationships, either from previous relationships or from childhood. And we could talk for hours about that. So it's a combination of what we bring in, you know, our attachment style, our childhood wounds, and I don't necessarily mean childhood trauma or abuse. That's not what I'm talking about. Just the stories the lessons that we learn as young children about what it means to be in a relationship with another person, what it means to be loved. So we bring that in, and we also bring in communication styles, mash those together, and sometimes it works beautifully and sometimes it's a real mess. And then you bring in another person's childhood wounds, relationship stories, and their communication style, and it can be a really big mess. So I work a lot on unpacking those stories, healing those wounds, and learning gentle ways to open conversations and communication from a space that is, what's the word? Sorry, from a space that is supportive of the relationship.
Because sometimes that's the key, isn't it? Being able to word a question or a comment in the right way that supports the relationship, but doesn't go, you're not doing this, you know?
That soothes, that's very difficult to say, soothes things rather than inflames. Yes. That doesn't poke at the other person's wound. That's not coming from a place of our own wound or our own hurt or our own pain. Just being opening a conversation that is designed to lead to resolution, not win-loss. We're looking for resolution. And that's the case too when you're communicating as co-parents, or when you're communicating as you navigate your way out of a relationship through a separation or divorce. You're looking to communicate for a resolution, not for me to win and you to lose.
Yeah. Yes. And I've got two questions.
Not always easy, and I don't always get it right myself. You can ask my kids, you can ask my partner, you can ask my ex-husband, but we're all beautiful, glorious works in progress, and I am one as well.
So I've got two questions. Will you remember extended family for me? Because that will remind me what I'm going to ask. And then the other one is, you know how you were saying, you know, what's happened in your childhood and different people's upbringings and stuff like that. I think a massive thing to recognize in yourself, whether it be within relationships or just self and, you know, work and daily things, is your triggers, you know. So have you had experience of those triggers, and what do you do to help people to recognize those?
Look, that is work that I would do one-on-one with a client over an extended period of time. So the dot points are, know what they are. Really listen in and learn to recognize what's happening in your body, because that will tell you when you're triggered. That'll tell you before anything else will tell you. So think about something that really, really pisses you off about someone else, and imagine that and feel it in your body. That's a trigger, or that is your response to a trigger. So learn to recognize how your body responds when you're triggered, and practice calming your body down, breathing, bare feet on the ground, you know, just stretching and releasing your fingers, mindfulness exercise, 5 things I can see, 5 things I can touch, you know, whatever works for you, but practice those techniques and strategies when you're just ever so slightly triggered, or you're annoyed at something somebody has said on Twitter or something on the television. So you're not actually in a situation where you're in a relationship with this person. It doesn't matter. You can be triggered, but practice calming your body down using those techniques when you're not presented with the actual person who's triggering you. And this is really key. Yes, regardless of where you are in your relationship exploration, relationship journey. But if you've had a fairly triggering, a high conflict or difficult separation and divorce, it's really, and you have to co-parent with this person, it's really important. So start to recognize when you're triggered in situations that don't matter so much, and apply your techniques in those situations so that when you really are fired up and triggered on the phone or in person or with your partner, your husband, your wife, you can start to apply those, bring yourself down before engaging.
Totally agree. It's like
really easy to say, not so easy to do all the time.
And that's why I like the fact that you reiterated practice, because I think so much of the time we think we should be able to just do these things because it sounds so easy, if you get pissed off, just breathe deeply. Yeah, I can do that, no problem. But when it actually
you're already like this,
yes.
You're trying to breathe deeply, well, you can't.
Exactly.
So it's not something that you've, as I said, practiced to do.
Yes.
Sorry, I interrupted because
that's all right. And
I'm quite passionate about triggers and bringing ones.
Yeah. I think it's really important to understand that you're not going to be perfect at it straight away, and you may not be perfect at it in 10 years time, because there might be someone that just pushes you over the edge. But you'll get what's the word I'm looking for? You'll get better at recognizing what's going on in your body, and it's almost like you feel it and you recognize it, and there's almost a gap in between what you do next. And it's when you can get that gap for your mind to go, I choose to go mad at this person, or I choose to breathe and be the super adult, And when you get to the point where you can do that, the very first time you realize you can do that, it is like you're a superhuman person. And I allow you to put your superwoman outfit on and high five yourself.
I think too, the more you practice it, you get to catch it earlier. So if it's a 1 to 10 type spectrum and you're blowing your stack at 10, if you start to practice this, you'll catch yourself at a 7, then you'll catch yourself at a 5, then you'll catch yourself at a 3, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm almost a 1, so I don't want to go there. I'm just going to put my techniques in place. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to whatever it is for you. Yeah. And
then the more you put that in place, your brain starts to go, I need to breathe. And it's similar to going running. You'll understand this from when you did go running. The first 5-10 minutes might not be that enjoyable, but then by the end of the run, you feel amazing. So you want to do it again and again and again. And the more you go, the more consistent it becomes. You feel bad if you don't run. And so it becomes the same with these triggers. If you practice those ways of bringing yourself down on that 1 to 10 scale, you'll eventually get to the point where you'll want to be the calm version rather than the mad version. And, it's such a nicer space for you to be in, because you don't take yourself into that stress and, that feeling of anger that doesn't leave you.
It's really empowering to be able to step into that. And I think I was going to say something else and now it's gone. I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, very empowering to be able to step in and really reclaim that for yourself rather than being that out of control. I know what I was going to say. If you start to think about what triggers you, there's very often an underlying childhood wound, whatever it is, and if you start to work on that, as well as managing your trigger, or managing being triggered and bringing yourself back down, you start to work on what's underlying. If you look across your relationships, whether it be with your mother-in-law, with your kids, with your father, with your husband, with your ex-partner, with your girlfriend, whoever it is, if you look at what really fires you up, there'll be themes and patterns. So for me, I grew up in a really busy, loud household with 3 older siblings. So one of my wounds has always been, not anymore, has been, I don't have a voice. So I had to get really loud to be listened to, because I did. I actually had to get really loud to be heard in that household, or something had to be massive and dramatic for them to stop and go, oh. So that I carried that for a really long time into interactions and engagements, not only with intimate partners, but with other humans, so I was a really loud one. And yeah, I'm still loud, but I know how to temper that. And I know when it's loud, like now, because I'm really passionate and excited about what I'm sharing. And when it's seemingly something different, it's like, oh, hang on a minute. I don't have to be loud here. I don't have to make myself heard. I have a valid voice. So if you're finding yourself being triggered, have a look at the common themes and see if you can dig down underneath. What is it that's really going on?
And it's interesting because these are things that relate to everything. So if you are struggling with, I don't know, eating chocolate, struggling with alcohol, struggling with whatever, those triggers are the things that are sending you there. So it's exactly the same that we're saying now to help you get over being sent to whatever chocolate or alcohol or drug of choice. It's all the same. Now, just coming back to the extended family. Yeah. And I don't know whether it's the right word. No, it's probably, is it? So when you get divorced and then remarry, is that an extended family? It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Extended, blended, whatever.
Blended, yeah.
I tend to call it just a family, because I still speak about my ex-husband and my kids. We're still a family.
Yeah.
We just don't live together. We're not married anymore, but we're still family.
Do you help people who are going into that next family how to navigate through that? And say, for instance, if there's kids from the other person's side and living in the same house, you always hear these awful stories of the kids hating each other. And I've got a friend who wanted to move in with his new partner, but the daughter didn't want to move into the house, so they've not been able to move into the house. All that craziness. Do you deal with that too?
I do. I haven't a lot. I do have lived experience of blending families and then deciding that Adam and I have 5 kids between us, and they range from, my youngest is 17, he's the youngest, and they go up incrementally from there. And we did live together for a period of time, but when we looked at it, it just wasn't working for the 5 kids. Nobody hated each other. Sorry, I've got a hair, that the perils of curly hair, folks. They didn't hate each other, but there just wasn't enough time and space for each set of biological kids to get what they needed from their parent. So we decided that we would take this quite radical step a few years ago, and we live apart. We're still together, we're committed, but we're in a live apart together relationship. And I share that just because it's not that common. But when you talk about people who, like your friend, who they want to, but for various reasons, it's just not going to work. Do I work with them? Not a lot. I find that I work mostly with women, and then, so navigating a challenging relationship or a big shift in their relationship, navigating separation, divorce. And then I've worked with a few of my clients as they navigate their co-parenting relationship with their ex, and then in comes a new partner. So yes to the point of just supporting them through those transitions and building relationships, but probably not quite to the extent that you were asking. Not that I wouldn't do it, because I think
would imagine that people in those situations almost feel like, oh, well, this is our choice, we just have to battle through it, you know, and don't think maybe we could get help with this. Maybe there's someone else who could do that business.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, as I said, I do work in the co-parenting space, but I don't tend to work. I don't work with couples. I've just made the conscious choice just in the last few weeks that I'm not going to work with couples. There are mediators, there are family counselors and psychologists who can support you if you are blending a family, because there's a lot to consider. A lot.
There's masses, really masses.
Including women who are listening. If you have assets, even if you don't, and you're going into a new relationship, having gone through a divorce, really think about a binding financial agreement before you do. Protect your assets.
Interesting, because most people wouldn't think of things like that either, because, you know, we're all loved up and we just get into the next relationship. We don't really think about being sensible, do we?
Yeah, so you need to do the sensible things as well as do the loved up sex things.
So Sallyanne may have saved you your riches. You can thank her after. So we're coming to an end, Sallyanne, and I just want to ask you, what would be your biggest piece of advice or takeaway for people who are either unhappy in their relationship, worried about their relationship, or just advice in general?
When we spoke earlier before jumping on and recording, we talked about something that I think is going to support the women who are in here listening to the recording, and that is, how do I know, which is sort of answering your question, but I'm taking a little bit of a tangential route, and I'll come back to it. How do you know whether it's time to call it on your relationship when you're in the middle of perimenopause, or whether it is just all the hormones and all of the other changes? And I really wanted to address that as part of today. So I think it's really important to go deep and get all the other support that you need. And we talked about it at the top of the call, you know, really make sure you've ticked all your other boxes, your hormones are as balanced as they can be, you know, before you make a call on your relationship. Also ask yourself, was it crappy, the relationship? Was it rocky or distant, or were you disconnected before you hit perimenopause? And is it, you know, I think it affords us an opportunity to really kind of dig deep and think about where have you, as the female often does, where have you been settling and minimizing your feelings and squashing yourself down and popping yourself in a box and saving things for later and doing the burnt chop thing in your relationship. So get all the medical, naturopathic, hormonal support that you can get, and then really go deep on, were we challenged beforehand? And redefine what you want it to be. So that goes back to what I said before, how I work with my clients, go 5, 10, 20 years ahead. How do you want it to be? What are your goals? What are your dreams for yourself? Not just for the relationship. Really go deep on what is it you want? And is this relationship actually going to support you to step towards that life that you most want 5, 10, 20 years time? In terms of tips, I really think it goes back to communication and learning to calm yourself, soothe yourself, and step into a communication or an engagement with an outcome that serves the relationship as your goal. So that would be a tip. I really think that and I know Sharon touched on it in the previous call, the previous chat, and I think a few others have too. I reckon that menopause, perimenopause offers us as women a real opportunity to shed things that no longer serve us. And if that is your relationship, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just get your ducks in a row. Make sure you've, done your due diligence sort of thing, got, and you know that it is the relationship. It's not just you going perimenopausally bonkers. Yeah. It is actually, you've done, you've worked through it. You've worked through your issues, or your partner's not willing to meet you, whatever it is. But perimenopause, menopause is a real liberation. And I agree with Sharon that it's a time for women to just step into their power. We're no longer bound by periods and the possibility of pregnancy. We've just got this freedom to actually be who we really, really want to be. So I think that would be my biggest message. Get clear on who that you really want to be, what really lights you up, what makes your soul sing, and start bringing that into your everyday. Yeah. And hopefully your partner will meet you, and he or she will be doing the same, and you'll journey together. And if not, that's okay.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, Sharon. It's been fabulous to chat.
Very welcome. Thanks for having me.
I would love everybody, if you are having any problems with your relationship and you need some advice, to get in touch with Sharon. I'm calling you Sharon now. Sallyanne, sorry. Tell us where you are, Sallyanne. I know Reflect Coaching, but tell people how they get in contact with you and what's the, I suppose, process to get in touch.
I'm fairly active, as you said, on social media, predominantly Instagram and LinkedIn, a little less so on Facebook. If you just search my name, Sallyanne Hartnell, or Reflect Coaching, it'll pop up, and I'm sure you can drop it in as links. Coming up, I do, if for people on my VIP list coming up, there's a special. So if you are interested in reaching out, make sure you jump on over to my website, reflectcoaching.com.au, sign up, because there's something special coming. Love to share it with you guys. Even if you just want to up-level your relationship, even if you want to up-level your relationship with yourself, come on over, hang out on social media, particularly on Instagram. I also have a podcast with lots and lots of juice. So
yeah, fantastic podcast, really interesting speakers. And again, I'm like, oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. So follow Sallyanne, and like she says, do the things that you need to do for yourself, and then see, okay, was it just the stuff going on in me that was making me unhappy in the whole relationship? Or do I need to work on this relationship? Thank you so much, Sallyanne.
We will see Thanks, everybody.
In the Facebook group. Have a great evening. You're not being crazy and doing 5 million seminars or anything, are you? Good. Have a great night.
Thank you. Thanks, Vanessa.
Bye.
Bye.